Kindness. We see it all around us. We see it when someone pays for someone else's coffee or holds the door open for another person. We see it in the smallest of gestures, like a smile or a kind word. But it's different when we turn on the news or social media. Oftentimes, what we hear about, what outlets are pushing, is the opposite of kind. Welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. Our goal is to give you a place to relax, to revel in stories of people who have received or given kindness, a place to inspire and motivate each and every one of us to practice kindness every day. Hello and welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. I am your host, Mike Rathbun, and today I have a really special guest with me. I've known this man for many years now, and he is amazing. But I guess I should tell you his name, huh? That'd be good. Welcome to the show, Steve Griffiths.
Mike, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share a little about myself and what I do and who I work with.
Yeah, well, this show is all about kindness, and just on a personal level, Steve, you have been so kind to me. You've been a mentor and a sounding board over the years, and I mean, you've been nothing but kind to me. So when I thought about needing guests, I thought, hey, how about Steve Griffiths?
Well, I appreciate that. I think that you're a phenomenal person, Mike, and I've always enjoyed our conversations. I think you've got a phenomenal sense of humor, and I think you make a bigger difference in the world, or you're part of the world, than I think you know.
Well, thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. But we're here. Okay, we're here to talk about the organization that you are the executive director of, which is Stepping Stone Emergency Housing,
right,
in Anoka, Minnesota. But now Stepping Stone is it's a 501(c)(3).
Yep.
C3.
Yep.
I always get those confused. It's a nonprofit, but this is not your first rodeo in the nonprofit world, is it?
No. I have worked in nonprofit work. I tell people more years than I care to think about. I think it's going on probably about 25 or 26 years. Yeah.
That's what it says on your bio page.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
And I have to admit, Mike, that I never anticipated, as I was going through my schooling, I never anticipated working in nonprofit work. But, I was very fortunate, not so much in my first nonprofit job. I enjoyed that job, but it's just, it didn't resonate with me, if that makes sense. My second,
right.
my second job in my career, I worked at People Serving People, which is, again, another homeless shelter in downtown Minneapolis. And,
okay.
When I was there, it just kind of hit me that I realized that, what really brings satisfaction to me was the idea of, when I got in my car to go home at night, that I knew that I was making a difference for people. And I kind of had that catharsis one day as I watched a single mom, bringing her kids back to the shelter and thinking, what, the work that I do is really making a difference for that mom and those kids. And I'm like, I feel good about that. I think that this is what I should be doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think it takes a certain kind of person to work in that nonprofit space. Because now when I met you, you were the executive director of, well, at the time it was known as Meals on Wheels.
Right.
And everybody, I think all of my listeners probably know what Meals on Wheels is.
Yep.
But basically, it's delivering meals to older individuals. Is that
right.
correct?
Yep.
But then, under your leadership, that kind of evolved. It was like Meals on Wheels Plus.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I mean, we went through, a name change to Impact Services. And the reason for that was the idea that, as an organization, myself and the board really wanted us to do more than just Meals on Wheels.
Right.
And, being a senior service organization, we were very fortunate that we started a couple new programs there as well. We put together a great curriculum to help families talk about the aging process. I think one of the things that I saw so often when I was there was, adult children calling to set things up for mom and dad. And there was just no plan in place. And
Right.
we were just kind of, this is what a case manager or the doctors told me I need to do. And I don't know that this is going to go well, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And you're making decisions on the, in the blind. And so I just thought it was really critical that we create some type of a curriculum for families to sit down and say, hey, what is it that people want? What do mom and dad want in these last 10 or 15 years? And how do we make that happen?
Absolutely. I think that willingness to facilitate or even to shine a light on the fact that, you need to have these conversations before
Right.
you need us.
Absolutely.
And that was so incredible. I really love that. I mean, my mom, well, did you ever meet my mom?
I never met your mom. No.
Okay. I mean, she never got to the point where she needed that. And I can say this now that she's passed. My mom was not a cook. So as long as there was a microwave and a frozen food section at the store, my mom was pretty much set with
Right.
with meals. But yeah, I mean, we never really talk as a general rule, and I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a generational thing or a cultural thing.
I think it's a cultural thing. I think one of the things that I think we see, especially in the United States, is we don't revere our seniors.
Right, especially when you compare us to like Japan or
Right.
some of those
Exactly.
other Asian countries.
We have a tendency to put seniors kind of in a corner, so to speak, and they have such a richness, and we can learn so much from them,
Right.
and help them to feel needed, and still making a difference in the world. Um, we have never done that, and I think we're starting to see a little bit of a sea change in that, which I think is great. But I think our culture just is we've never wanted to have conversations. I think traditionally it was whoever the oldest is, or most of the time whoever the oldest female
Oh
or
wow.
daughter
Yeah.
was the one who took care of everything, or if you were the closest.
That was just kind of an unspoken rule.
Totally unspoken rule. And the reality is, not everybody is gifted that way to be a good caregiver. And why not have the best person take on the most responsibility? And I talk with a lot of people, and a lot of times, I think mom and dad, while they probably don't have favorites, they have a child that they probably listen to a little bit more.
Okay, wink,
Yeah.
wink.
Well, yeah, so let's use that sibling as a conduit to get the information that either A, we need to get to mom and dad, or B, we need to get from mom and dad. So
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that was so amazing. But then, was it last year? Last year you switched places and
yeah,
you
I
moved over
started
to Stepping Stone.
I moved over to Stepping Stone. I've been here actually just over a year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't
Yeah,
know
it
if the
doesn't
mic will
seem
pick
like
up that
it.
clap.
It doesn't seem like it's been an entire year. It seems kind of crazy to me.
We've probably been pretty busy.
It has been it's been a busy year, but it's been a phenomenal change for me, and I'm a new challenge, and an exciting opportunity for me to engage a different population of people. It's really enjoyable. I could not be in a better situation for myself.
That's fantastic. And you're continuing with that whole you get to go home at the end of the night and know that you helped somebody.
Exactly. Yep.
And you made their life a little better. So now, Stepping Stone is the only emergency homeless shelter in Anoka County.
Yes. It's actually
for adults.
For adults. We're the only one in the suburbs. We do a little bit of case management with Washington County as well.
Oh, wow.
But Stepping Stone here in Anoka is the only actual physical site. We serve 66 individuals on a daily basis.
Wow. Now, and that's for those people not familiar with the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, there's a 7-county metro area with Hennepin and Ramsey counties, and that's Minneapolis and St. Paul respectively, and then 5 other counties, of which Anoka is one. So out of those other 5 counties, you're the only homeless shelter for adults?
For adults.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the need's staggering.
I noticed you posted something today on LinkedIn about homelessness. And the numbers were kind of eye-popping. You know what? I probably shouldn't have said that, because now I'm not going to be able to find the post. But, I mean, what is the state of homelessness, let's just say, in Minnesota these days? I mean, are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Is it staying the same?
Wow, what's the best way I can answer that? I think that there's more resource for people right now who are homeless than there has previously, which is a really good thing. I think the biggest part of that as well is, while there's more resource for people, there are probably more barriers for people as well. It seems kind of, that it ironic, or that shouldn't be that way. But, we have a market right now, especially because coming out of COVID after the moratorium on evictions.
Oh, sure.
Where that kind of freed up, I think it was probably about 8 or 9 months ago, where you're seeing people who were, staying in their apartment or home without paying rent, where they've been evicted now. So they're looking for themselves to find, new housing. Then you have people who are homeless, who are looking for housing. And, the market is competitive, and, it's tough to find that 1-bedroom apartment that is affordable for anybody.
Right. Yeah. Even studios.
Yep.
Are just
right.
Absolutely nuts.
Yeah. I mean, the price right now is it's hard for people to get into that situation, and it's so super competitive.
Yeah.
If you've got a previous eviction, on your record,
forget about it, huh?
Yeah, you're going to really struggle to get past that.
Wow. So, and I probably should have prepped you for this question, but I didn't, because it just popped into my head. What do you know? What is there a more prevalent cause of homelessness? I may have to cut that out. Thank you.
Sure. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I like to tell people that homelessness is really a symptom of a lot of other things. And I draw the comparison to kind of medical terms. Like, most of the time, doctors don't treat symptoms.
Right.
The one symptom that they do treat, because they say, if we don't take care of this one, nothing else is going to be effective. And that one is fever. We have to get fever down in order for medication to work.
Sure.
Homelessness is like the fever. We have to get people stabilized into a place where they feel, I know I have a place to sleep tonight. I know I have food coming in. Before we take care of really what are the reasons for homelessness,
right,
which are mental health, chemical dependency, lack of education, lack of job skills, maybe having an eviction on your record, being a ex-convict as well is an issue. There are just a myriad of reasons why people find themselves homeless. Domestic violence.
Sure.
That, we can't take care of those, the real cause of somebody being homeless until we bring the temperature down. Yep.
And really, that wouldn't be you guys' job anyway to do that.
No, our goal is really to, like I said, get that
Keep a
person.
roof over their head, keep them safe.
Yep. And then help point them to here are the resources in the community that can help you with those things that you've identified that
Right,
you need in order to stabilize yourself.
right. Were yours burning the other day?
Um, Boy, I don't know which day you're talking about.
Okay. Do your ears burn a lot, Steve? No, no. I was talking to Pam Howell
Oh,
from Mom's Haven of Hope, and we were talking about the different resources that are out there for the different groups of people,
mhm.
and your name came up, and but her organization helps single mothers who
Right.
don't have a home,
Yep.
and so yeah, but and there are lots of resources. Well, I shouldn't say lots. There are a few resources out there.
Hmm.
If you're a battered woman, as you mentioned, a domestic violence survivor, I think there's Alexandra House,
Yep.
and so it's not like there are no. Do we have enough for all of the people that need homes?
Oh,
Do we have enough resources?
goodness, no. Right now, we're full. I know just by being up at our front desk today that we've already had 4 or 5 phone calls of people looking for, uh, a place tonight. And we used to have a waiting list, and we found that to be ineffective.
Oh,
But our
okay.
waiting list could be anywhere between 120 and 300 people. But they were winding up waiting, 3 months for us to get back to them. And at that point, they probably just didn't need us at that
Right.
point. So we've gone away from the wait list. But I mean, we're full on a
Wow.
nightly basis.
That's and the reasons why are a whole other conversation. But
Right.
so how does somebody find their way to Stepping Stone? What is the process there?
Oh, for our residents to get here, I think our residents are pretty resourceful to get here. A lot of people self-refer them to get here. It's not about geographic location. Like I have to be in downtown Anoka to get here.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
it is, calling and saying, I'm homeless. The primary people that we work with are from, Anoka County, but, we see people from all over, the Twin Cities. Um, so they can self-refer themselves. We might get a phone call from a case manager from another service that, you know, shares with us that they have somebody who needs, housing. We work very closely with Hope for Youth, which here in Anoka, works with, teens and young adults. They refer to us quite a bit. And then every once in a while, we'll have law enforcement who will make a recommendation as well and maybe bring somebody here.
Oh,
Maybe it's for a one night stay, or they might be here for that one night and ask if they're able to stay. And if we have a bed available, and they meet,
sure,
what we're how we're looking to help them, we want to open that new opportunity for them as well.
sure. So once they're in, and let's assume that they need a longer stay.
Sure. Yep.
I'm guessing there are rules.
We absolutely have rules. They have to meet with their case manager every 2 weeks. That just shows that they're making progress on their housing plan. The big part about that is, they meet with the case manager, they get, assessment, they get into coordinated entry, for housing. But really, our goal is to empower the residents to guide this process themselves,
Nice.
because they need to have ownership of it. We can handhold them through the process, but I think we know this, that when somebody handholds us and then we get to the, kind of the brass ring, so to speak, that brass ring doesn't mean a whole lot,
Right.
because somebody else has done everything for us. So, we really encourage them to take the reins and say, you have to self-determine as to what is what are you looking for? How are we going to get there? How can we help you get there? But you've got to steer the ship.
Sure.
A couple other things, we have a nightly curfew that they need to be in, each night. We have some simple chores that we ask them to do just to be part of the community. Some of it is simple as vacuuming the hallways to, doing the dishes, in the kitchen. But it's really, I look at it in two reasons. Number one, it's an opportunity that for them to, to give to the community that they're living in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then number two, everybody needs to be doing something to have some self-worth. And
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think we don't think about it, but sometimes somebody just saying, you know what, could you clean the bathroom? You want me to do that? I can do that. I mean,
yeah.
This is a perfect example, Mike. We have somebody who just moved in about a week and a half ago. And we're finishing a renovation. We got some new furniture that came in yesterday off of off the back of a truck. It's on this huge pallet, and I'm sitting there. It's just me. I'm in a button-down shirt and dress pants, and he looks at me and he's like, "Can I help you with this?"
Nice.
Like, yeah, and he's moving the boxes, and I looked at him. I'm like, "You look like you know what you're doing." And he says, "I work construction, so this is old hat for me." He's like, "I'm more than glad to help out." And I think that's the reality for all of our residents. They want to be helpful,
sure.
Because there's that idea of, I can help somebody else.
Yeah.
I think everybody in every situation can find somebody that they can help.
Absolutely. And I think you were talking about having them kind of take charge of their process or their,
Yep.
And I think, do you think that maybe a lot of them, they have never been entrusted with coming up with a plan? And
I think that's a really interesting point, Mike. We have kind of two very specific populations that we work with. One is younger that are like 18 to kind of 28. And then we have a senior population as well.
Oh, okay.
And we find sometimes with our younger folks that they don't have the life skills. Like we have had some younger folks who never washed dishes.
Wow.
And that's not their fault.
Right. No. Agreed.
And I look at it and say, this is our opportunity to invest in them, show them how to do this. Because you know what? When they get in their apartment, there isn't anybody else who's going to wash those dishes. They're going to have to know how to do it,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that they look and say, I'm so glad that somebody's willing to invest in me to show me how to do these simple tasks so that I can have success.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because, and I'm not going to go into that. I had an idea for a podcast about stuff they didn't teach us in school and life skills. I don't know. And I'm not bashing on the schools because it's not necessarily their problem or their doing. Is it the parents? I don't know. But somewhere along the line, I mean, I learned as a kid how to change the oil in my car. Now, can I get my hand to where the oil filter is on car today? Probably not.
Right.
But I did learn. I learned how to change a tire. Mm-hmm. My dad taught me how to use a checkbook.
Yep.
Not that anybody uses one of those anymore these days. Yep. But it was there. We were, you're going to have to know this at some point in your life, and here's how you do it. And I don't think that we're serving at least our youth as well anymore by not teaching them those things.
Yeah, I mean, the only caveat that I'll say to that is I think maybe the default is the reality is you can learn how to do anything on YouTube today as well. Like I have a headlight out. And I'm like, well, I suppose I should look and see how to do that. And a 5-minute video, and I watched it. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
I could. I'm gonna wind up paying somebody else to do it just because I'm like, my hand doesn't, work.
Embarrassing story about myself. A couple years ago, I didn't check the oil on the mower
Whoops.
for a really, really,
Sure.
really long time, to the point that the engine blew.
Yeah.
And, the lazy guy in me said, well, we should just go out and buy a new mower. Like we can afford that. So what we ended up doing was we bought a new engine.
Sure.
Thank God for YouTube. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly.
And then just this year, we changed the blades on the mower. We changed the belt.
Yep.
All because of YouTube videos. So there is that out there.
There is that. But, I think more importantly for people, the human element of having somebody, like I say, invest their time and energy and say, look, I want to show you how to do this, and I'm willing to put the time into it. Right. It's a whole different thing.
And I think it's different learning from somebody face to face.
Right. Yep.
With you watching them, not through a video screen. I think that does add value.
Yep.
But so one of the things that has always impressed me with any nonprofit, really, but yours especially, are the volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think those are the ones that really demonstrate kindness.
Yes.
Because they don't have to be there.
No, right.
They're not getting paid.
Yep.
They're getting something much more.
Right. Yes.
So can you talk about the volunteers? Do you have just like an as needed basis, or
our biggest need and probably the best way to volunteer with us is helping serve meals.
Okay.
Whether it's lunch or dinner,
sure.
And we have plenty of availability. I mean, we're kind of rebuilding our volunteer base after COVID because obviously we just couldn't bring people in. But
I keep forgetting about that.
Well, I mean,
and how it impacted places like yours.
Right. Yeah, you talk about the kindness of volunteers coming in and yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, these are people who just, they're giving their time and their talent to invest in people. And I mean, they don't have to be here.
Right.
But it's an opportunity to show, kindness in the fact that, look, I care about your situation and where you are and who you are, that I want to be here and make sure that that somebody cares about you.
Right.
Which, I think the reality is all of us want that. We all want somebody, we all want to know that somebody else cares about who we are as an individual.
Exactly.
To have a volunteer who's willing to, put something on a plate, ask how you're doing, and maybe sit down and just have a 5-minute conversation with you, while you're here. Again, it's that idea of people investing in who I am. I think it creates such an opportunity, so that kindness brings dignity to people.
Right. Right.
It's just that opportunity of, here's a stranger who they don't know who I am. They know where I am, but they're willing to have a conversation with me where, I might be in a different situation and people wouldn't give me the time of day.
Right.
So, I think that volunteers show, a kindness that we don't value as much as I think we probably should. And I think that speaks for every nonprofit who has volunteers.
Right. And most of them do to some extent or another.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think back to my time, with Meals on Wheels and hearing some of the stories of, this is one of my favorite stories. This was a woman who was volunteering for the first time, and she got up to a person's, house, and she's like, there was smoke coming out of the back, behind the back, the garage. She says, I walked up and, this person, was grinding metal, and had, unbeknownst to him, started his backyard on fire because it was so dry.
Oh my.
Well, I mean, she saw it and was able to get the lawn hose out and take care of it.
Okay.
You know, but I mean, here's an act of kindness from this person. First time doing this, like this is. I didn't sign up to put out a fire. I
Right.
signed
I
up to
signed up
knock
to
at the door
deliver
and say,
meals.
"Hey, how you doing? Here's your meal today." Um, you know, and I think people who volunteer and volunteer at the same place for a long time, they develop the relationship with the people that they see, where they're super invested in who those people are.
Yeah.
And they celebrate their success almost, I think, sometimes more than the person who has that success themselves.
Yeah.
Because they've just seen where people are at and where they're at now, and they see the victory. And I think that that's just phenomenal. And one of the other things I just want to say too, Mike, is I think for participants in nonprofit work, you know, there's kindness between each other as well.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
I think that that's you know like we might be here for a purpose to get something. Whether if we're in a counseling group, or we're in a homeless shelter, or um, maybe we're in Boy Scouts. You know, but we're able to invest in other people as well and show kindness to those people, because I think that's just intrinsic in who people are. I think that we want to help make people feel better.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I know it just deep down, you can watch the news and
Mhm.
see all the arguments and the yelling and the screaming and the blah, 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 blah. But I think it's much more common for each of us to have something more in common than our differences.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we just don't see it as often as we see the news, maybe?
Right.
I don't
Right.
know.
Well, I think it's very easy
And
to,
that's kind of why I started this podcast.
yeah. Well, you know what? I think the reality is we, it's easier to identify the anomaly
Right.
than it is the norm.
Yes.
So yeah, when people act out in the unkind way, we see that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very interesting when you watch the news. Like I love it, NBC News,
Yeah.
and they always end their program, their national news, with a feel good story.
Yep.
And I think that the news does that because they're like, we've just poured 27 minutes of junk at you. And we don't
Yeah.
want you to think that we're just horrible and telling you all that the world is horrible. But look at this great story of X, Y, and Z going on here. And you look at that and go, see, there's just good stuff going on in the world.
Yeah. I agree. And I watch CBS News.
Oh, okay.
And on Friday nights, one night a
Mm-hmm.
week, at the end of they always do a somewhat feel good story during the week too. But on Friday nights, they do a bit. I'm at a loss for words here. They do a segment with a guy by the name of Steve Hartman, and he has a segment called On the Road.
Oh, sure.
Are you familiar with it?
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Because you'll see it sometimes on CBS Sunday Morning, I think, also.
Mm-hmm.
And honest to God, Steve, I live for those
Yeah, well, yeah.
because you sit there and it's like, what day is it? Is it Friday? Oh, good. It's On the Road with Steve Hartman Day.
Yeah.
And just the feeling of all of those stories, they just bring you warmth and happiness and
Right.
joy. And yeah, I tried to get Steve Hartman on this podcast. I haven't
Oh,
heard from him. He won't answer my emails.
you know who would be
Steve, if you're listening,
another really good person for you to get?
who?
Uh, Boyd Hubert from Care 11.
Oh, Land of...
To the 10,000 stories.
Is that him?
10,000.
I couldn't remember because I think there's one on... Oh, that is Care 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Boyd.
Yeah. Come on, Boyd.
Is there
If
any way
I
I
can
can
do it, you
tag?
can do
I'm trying to see if I can tag him in this. But anyway. Yeah, it's... Yeah. I think, we need to have more places where we can go and see the happy and the good and the kind and help us block some of that other stuff out.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I think is really important as well is it's amazing how one act of kindness can turn a day around for people.
It is.
I mean, you can be having just the worst. Just today is not a good day,
Right.
and whether that act of kindness is something towards you or you witness it towards somebody else, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? Life is okay.
It's such a ripple effect, isn't
Oh,
it?
it absolutely is. It
Because you're
absolutely
not
is.
even okay. So first of all, the person who's receiving the
Mhm.
kindness is happy and gets a little boost. You having done the kindness, you get that endorphin
Yep.
boost. But anybody who sees that also, and I'm not saying go out there and because I don't care much for the people you see on YouTube who go out and like buy homeless and they're filming it
Yes. Yep.
specifically for
Exactly. Yep.
accept as a way of motivating somebody else to do it.
Yep. Yeah. No,
That
I would agree with you.
yeah,
And the ripple effect, I think, goes beyond just the person who saw it.
yeah.
Most of the time, that person who saw it is going to tell somebody else, God, when I was at the store today, you'll never guess what happened.
And then there's another whole nother layer of ripples.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And what you were talking about, the simplest of things. So stop me if you've heard this yet before, because I tell this story a lot.
Okay.
But I'm on Reddit. Okay, my oldest kid, he's a Gen Xer, and he introduced me to Reddit. And so I was scrolling through one day, and I came upon a subreddit of casual conversations. And this guy posted, and he was from Minneapolis, I think. He posted, "I just sat for the last 30 minutes in my truck crying." And you're like, "Oh, why?" And he goes on. He talks about how hard the last couple of years was on him. And he said he was just walking down the street, and some guy he'd never seen before, never met before, just hollered out, "Hey man, nice beard." And he said, "I haven't even taken care of my beard for the last 2 years because I figured who cares?"
Sure.
And somebody took, 5 seconds out of their
Right.
day, and it made his day. It absolutely rocked his world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
We shouldn't pass up those opportunities.
no, and I think sometimes it's really easy to, but yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
maybe now that we're more aware of it,
Yep.
we can.
Yeah. And like I said, we shouldn't pass up those opportunities because, man, everybody needs affirmation.
Absolutely.
I mean, man, that word of kindness, affirming me as an individual. Oh my goodness, you have no idea how that's going to speak to somebody.
Absolutely. On that note, Stephen,
Yeah,
thank you so much for being here. And I
absolutely.
really appreciate this time with you. We used to do coffee. We haven't since COVID. Maybe we could change that.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. Okay. Stephen Griffiths or it's just Steve. I don't know why I said Stephen. So formal. Steve Griffiths from Stepping Stone Emergency Housing in Anoka, Minnesota. Thank you for the gift of your time and patience today, and we will talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks for having me on today.
I always have the best conversations with Steve Griffiths, and I really appreciate him being here and being on the show today. I thought of this after the fact, but I wanted to ask him what ending homelessness looks like. Is it possible? Can we do it? Is it a goal we should even strive for? I think so, but I'm not sure what that looks like. In any event, we'll be back next week with a brand new show. Thank you so much for the gift of your time. And remember to be that person who roots for others, who tells a stranger that they look amazing, and encourages others to believe in themselves and their dreams. You've been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast. I am your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.